Grade 12s, and welcome to today's mathematics webinar. As you know, I always allow 2 minutes just for attendees to still sign in. So let's just give them that time. I will see you in 2 minutes. Okay, I think that everyone is settled in and who wanted to join us did sign in already. So if I didn't greet you this morning already, welcome to this morning's mathematics webinar. I just want to make sure that all of you know that this pure mathematics webinar, the mathematical literacy webinar will be presented next week. As well as if you are an Afrikaans learner, please note that tomorrow afternoon, the Afrikaans version of this webinar will be presented. You're still welcome to stay and work through the webinar with us here, but just so that you know that you do have other options. Right, those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Linky Young and I'm the Chief Education Specialist at Impact for Mathematics and Sciences. So before we kick off this webinar, I would just like to cover some basics so that you know exactly what is expected of you and what you can expect of this session and how it is going to work. So if you're struggling to hear me, please make sure that your audio button is on. You will see that there's a setting there and that your volume is turned up. So I just want to highlight that for the guys, you know, that can't hear me. Otherwise, it doesn't help that I'm actually saying it. You also know that you will be muted when you join into this session. I do allow time for questions in this session. So then I will unmute you, you will ask your question, and I will mute you afterwards again. Right, all of you know that there's a little hand that you can use to put up. You're going to use that when I allow time for questions. So you can quickly test that out. You can press on the hand icon over there, see how it works. You can also put down your hand as well. So you can play around quickly with that button. You can put up your hand just to show me that you can hear me as well. I only see one hand at this stage. Please make sure that you know. There we go. There's a lot of hands going up. Awesome. Okay. It seems that most of you know where the hand icon is, and you can also tag down your hand. I am also going to tag down your hand now on my side. Okay. So all of you know about the hand and how we are going to use it. So in this session, I will allow time where you can use that hand to ask questions. You can download this presentation in PDF format in the handout box. Please do that during this presentation or during this webinar, because if we stop the broadcast, it won't be available for download here as you see it now. It will be made available on the guided learning platform under resources. But this is more convenient. So can someone do it now? Click on your handout box, download it, and then you have that for future reference. All of this information will also be in a question box below. And remember to send us your questions. So I said that I will allow time for you to ask questions during the session. If you are not comfortable to ask your questions out loud, you're welcome to type it out in the question box. We do encourage our attendees to ask questions and leave comments. However, if you leave irrelevant or inappropriate comments or questions, you will be dismissed from this session. Usually during my webinar sessions, I get to all the questions that you want to ask, as well as in the question box that you leave. If I don't get to your questions and I do not send an email with the reply to that, you're welcome to send an email to info@impact.co.za. Or if I don't get your academic question, you're also welcome to send an email to academics@impact.co.za. Now, the recordings of all the webinars, so from the start where we started with the webinars, the recordings are available on the Impact YouTube channel. I will share the link to that YouTube channel for you at the end of this session. So if you missed out on some, or you want to go back and have a look at that sessions again, you're welcome to go onto the YouTube channel and go and have a look at that. Okay, I'm just taking down everything so that we can carry on. There we go. Okay, so let's start. You also know that I do cover the topics that you need to do for term 2 in our sessions. Now you will see today we are actually ending off with the last part of the term 2 statistics work. So from next week, we will carry on and you will see we'll do a new part of statistics that needs to be done in term 3. So I am going to carry on with term 3 topics from the next webinar. I also want to mention, I thought it well, so in each webinar, you will see I'm taking questions from question papers so that you can see how the specific topic will be assessed in an examination as well. So I'm not only going to do examples or just the theory, I am going to incorporate some exam type questions in each webinar as well. Okay, this means that I cannot spend too much time on the basic theory. So I need you to still work on your own, as you are supposed to cover all the theory and the baseline information of each topic of the term. So you can carry on with your term 3 work so long if you are done with term 2. And I'm sure that, as you know, grade 12's, the June examination is not going to happen now in June. So when we have more information regarding if it is still going to happen, or are you only going to write your prelims and November's, your finals, we will keep you updated. So as soon as we receive any more information, we will keep you updated. But for now, the June examination will not carry on in June. Okay, so let's just recap the topics for term 2. It was calculus that was a continuation of term 1, number patterns, analytical geometry, and statistics. So today we are going to look at statistics and specifically revision of it. So all the grade 11 statistics we are going to revise today. I'm also going to take a November examination paper of grade 11 with statistics so that we can be sure that you also can apply that to exam type questions. So the statistics that we will not be doing today that we will only get to in our next webinar is term 3 work. And that is specifically grade 12 new statistics that has to do with regression lines. It is quite easy. You're going to do it on your calculator. But for now, the requirements for term 2 is only revision of the statistics that you have done in grade 11. So this is important as it will be assessed in full in grade 12 as well. That is why they've built it into the curriculum and the year plan that you need to do this revision. So let's just look at what you should be able to do. You will be, statistics will be assessed in paper 2. There will be no statistics in paper 1. I need to make this clear because there is a bit of confusion between statistics and probability. Probability questions will be assessed in paper 1. Statistics will be assessed in paper 2. So I'm just going to repeat that again. Probability questions will be assessed in paper 1 and statistics will be assessed in paper 2. Right, so what should you be able to do in statistics? As I mentioned, we're going to focus on grade 11 revision for now. Right, so if you think about statistics, I'm just going to remove that question quickly. You have to know your mean, your mode, and your average. You will have to be able to do a 5-point summary where you have minimum, maximum, your quartiles, first quartile, your lower quartile or your Q1, your median, which is your middle, which is your Q2, and your Q3, which is your upper quartile. So all of that is still in place. So if you don't know that, you need to go and revise that. And as I said, I'm going to work through old question papers of this work so that you know how it can be assessed. So I've taken this specific question from the grade 11 November examination, paper 2 of 2018, I think. Let me just make sure. Yes. All right. So this is typically how they will ask and still ask statistics in grade 12. So you're going to have questions like this, or you will have regression lines, which we will do in our next revision webinar about statistics as well. Okay, so let's just read through this question. Let me just get this nice pointer here for you. So, a school held a sports day. One of the items on the program was an obstacle race. Teams of 10 parents and learners participated in this race. So one team had 10 members. The table below shows the time taken in minutes by each member of a particular team to complete the race. So you will see that they talk about 10 members, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 values that is given over there. And this is each individual member's time that it took to complete this obstacle race. Okay. Now they say, how long in minutes did it take for the fastest member to complete the race? Right, so this is the times. It's very easy to see that the fastest member only took 4 minutes to complete their part of the obstacle race, or we don't know how the obstacle race looks like. If each of them need to complete it, they didn't say, but they say that the 10 members, these are their times to complete their race. So the second question asks, determine the mean time taken by this team. So the mean actually refers to my average. How do I calculate an average of anything that I work with? I add the values together and I divide it by the total number of the values. So at this stage, and I want you to think back to grade 11. When you are asked to calculate the mean or an average, it doesn't matter in which order your data is. So those 10 values do not have to be ordered from small to big. When we get to the median or your quartiles, it is very important that you need to order your data. Otherwise, your answers will be wrong. So what I usually do, I don't even read the questions before I order my data. This is one of the times that, or this question now is one of the very, very few times where you never will have to order your data because the type of questions that is asked. But yes, so when you start by doing a statistics question, start by ordering your data. So luckily in this case, your data is already ordered, but to calculate your mean or your average, the data didn't have to be ordered for you. Okay, so luckily in this stage, like I said, it is already ordered, even though it's not needed. The total of the value. So I'm going to add all of that together, and I'm going to divide it by the total number of values. So how many values were there? There were 10 values. So I add all of these values together, divided by the 10 values that were there. I will get that my mean is 16,9. So at 1.3, I said here that you can use your calculator. They say calculate the standard deviation for the data. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on how to do it on your calculator. I didn't type it out over here, so I want you to listen very carefully. So you need to take your calculator and press the mode button and say that you're going to statistics, which is 3. You will see there you have it. You will press your mode button and it gives you a lot of options. You will see number 3 is stat. So you press number 3 and you will see you will be given a lot of options over there as well. So they say there's one variable or you will have a plus bx, but if I look over here, I only have 10 numbers. It is not linked to something else, something specific. So you say, I only have one variable. So you'll press 1. You will see that it brings up a little table over there. And you are going to add your values in there. You will say 4 equals 12 equals 13 equals 16 equals 17 equals 18 equals 20, 22, and 25. I missed one. Let me just go back there. So you'll say mode. You want to go to statistics. You only have one variable and you start to add your data. So 4, 12, 13, 16, 17, 18, 20, 22, 22, and 25. So that is where you end. You can press after your 25 your equal sign. All your values will be listed in a table on your calculator. Right, so you can now say AC, you clear it. You'll say shift, and then at your number 1, you will see there is stats or distance, okay? So you'll press stat, and you want to know the variable. So the standard deviation is actually given as a variable for this. So you will now make your choice to 4. Standard deviation is your S with the X next to it, and it is option 4 on your next screen. So you'll press 4 and equal, and you will get your answer over there. Sorry, it's not the X, it is the that summation question. 4, 5.8. So just to recap, you need to put your calculator on statistics. So you'll go to mode, statistics. You only have one variable. So it's only numbers that you're going to add. You are going to add all your values, 4, 12, 13, 16, up until 25. Then you will press your clear button, your AC button. You'll go back. You'll say second function. 1, because you will see there's like a little stats or distance question over there. And you will press 4 because you want to look at your variables. And the standard deviation is that looks like this. It's like almost like an alpha, but it's a sum question. It's standard deviation symbol, and you will get that the standard deviation is 5,79. So if you go and do a bit of research regarding standard deviation, there's a lot of steps that you need to work with. So you'll take the average, you take the difference between the average and the number, and then do a calculation of adding together and subtracting. But usually this question, and if you look there, it only counts 1 mark. So to actually take the risk of making a calculation mistake with this, which is very a time-consuming process to actually work it out, or just use your calculator for 1 mark. I'll just use my calculator for 1 mark. Okay, so it's easy steps. If you forget the steps, please rewind back to this part of the webinar and come and have a listen at how you need to do that. Okay, so let's carry on. You've done that last year as well, so it shouldn't be new. Okay, question 1.4. How many members of the team completed the obstacle course outside of 2 standard deviations of the mean? So they want to know, if I have my mean value and I add 2 standard deviations and I subtract 2 standard deviations, which values falls outside of that? And we call that our outliers as well. So you will take your mean, you will add 2 standard deviations. So it's 16.9 plus 11.58, and it gets to a value of 28,48. Now, if you look at your data, there was no value more than 28,48. So none of the times were more than that. So now we need to check which value falls below 2 standard deviations from the mean. So you will take your mean, subtract 2 standard deviations. So it's 16.9 minus 11.58 is equal to 5,32. So there's definitely a number that is lower than 5.32, and it is 4. It means that 1 member completed the obstacle course outside of 2 standard deviations. So my 4 is actually my outlier in this case. Okay. It took another team a total time of X plus 5 minutes to complete the race. So a team, again, is of 10 members. Okay? To complete the race. Calculate the value of X if the overall mean of the 2 teams combined was 18 minutes. So we need to talk about this a little bit. So they say the mean, you look here, the mean of the 2 teams, I know that the first team was 16.9. And the total of their values was 169. And there were 10 members. Now I need to think of 20 members because I have 2 teams. And I need to get the total value of 2 teams. So my total value will be 169 plus this, X plus 5, because they say the total time of this team is that. I know that the mean for both teams is 18, it's given, but now my total number of values will be 20 because there are 2 teams. So I know that the mean is 18, they've given it to me. So 18 is equal to the total of the first team, which is X plus 5, they've given it to me, plus the total of the second team or the first team, it doesn't matter how you will think about it, it's 169 over 20 values because there are now 20 members because there are 2 teams that I'm talking about. And you will do algebra to just solve your X, and you will find that X is 186. So I hope that this revision of this question actually helped out and reminded you of statistics that you have done in grade 11. So the second question I've also taken from this paper, and there's a lot of things that I want us to look at here. So just looking at this question, you see that we have an ogive over there, which is your cumulative frequency graph, and we also see a table with classes. So we didn't work with that in the previous question. Okay, so I want us to work through these questions just to make sure that you are still up to date with your grade 11 statistics. Okay. In it, a survey was conducted of the ages of players at a soccer tournament. The results are shown in the cumulative frequency graph, or the ogive, below. I am going to make this bigger as we carry on with the questions. Okay, so they would like to know how many players took part in the soccer tournament, right? So if you think about cumulative frequency, you will add all of them together until you get to your total in the end. And if I look at this graph over there, I see adding and adding and adding and adding, and I get to 50. It means that there was a total of 50 players that took part in the soccer tournament. 1.3 says determine the number of players between the ages of 24 and 31 years old. So now the only information that they've given me is this ogive, which gives me the ages of soccer players and the cumulative frequency. So I need to specifically look at how many players was there between 24 and 31 years old. So if you look at this graph, that is the one that was given, and I look at 24, I will see that there was a total, because it is my cumulative frequency. 24, there was a total of 10 players, and at the age of 31, there was a total of 40 players. So how many players was there between the two? I need to do a subtraction, so the difference between the two. So 40 minus the 10 is 30. There are 30 players between the ages of 24 and 31. There we go. Okay, so you've seen that it increased from 10 players up to 40 players. So I need to subtract to get the difference between the two. It means that there are 30 players between the ages of 24 and 31. 2.3 says complete the frequency column of the table below in the answer book. Okay, so there will be an answer book for you. I didn't add it yet. So you can either look at this cumulative frequency here, the graph, or this table is enough for you, or gives you enough information to actually complete this by itself. So you know that your cumulative frequency is the sum of the frequency plus the previous frequency. So the frequency for 4, if the frequency of the cumulative frequency here will be 4, because it's 4 plus nothing. So 4 plus 0 is 4. Now I know 13 should be this frequency plus the 4. So you will just say 13 minus the 4, which is 9. 37 minus the 13. 47 minus the 37. 50 minus the 47. So as I said, you can look here and you can look at what is the difference between the different values. So in this class interval, I see that there is 4. You can read it off here. In the next class interval from 20 to 25, so you will take this value minus that value on this y-axis of yours and get the answers, and so on and so forth. Or you can just use the information that was in the table to actually calculate the values. So just to recap, you can say 4. 13 minus 4, which will give you 9. 37 minus 13, which is 24. 47 minus 37, which is 10. 50 minus 47 is 3. It means that there are 4 players in this class interval between the ages of 15 and 20. Between 20 and 25, there are 9 soccer players, and so on. Okay. 1.4 says, use the grid provided in the answer book to draw a frequency polygon for the data. So to draw a frequency polygon, you need to take the middle of your class interval. So the middle of your class interval here, how do you calculate that? You will say 20 minus 15, which is 5. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. So you will say 15 plus 2.5, which is 17.5. So you need to get the middle of your class interval is 4. Then the middle of this class interval, which will be 22.5, is 9. Okay, so let's just see how this will look. You can also use this table that we have done. So as I mentioned now, you're going to use that value. So you get your middle of your class interval, and you're going to use this table to actually draw it. So if you look at this, and I've included what you will get marks for. I said that your frequency polygon, you need to use the midpoints of your classes over here. So for the first class, it will be 17.5. Your value is 4. For 22.5, your value is 9. For 27.5, your value is 24. Now, this is a frequency polygon, not a cumulative frequency. So you will use your frequency values for this. Okay. 32.5, which is 10, and then 37.5, which will be 3. So you connect all those points and you draw it up to 0 on both sides into the next class, if there would have been a next class. So what do you get marks for? For using the midpoints of your classes. So they want to see at 17, not at 15, at 17.5 that your value was 4, that you plot your points correctly, that you join it with a straight line. It's not a curve. I repeat, it's not a curve. I want to see that straight lines from the class midpoints to the others. It doesn't matter if it's a jagged line. And then did you ground them? Did you take it to 0? So like I said, in the middle of the next or the previous class, if there was one, so there it will be between 10 and 15. So at 12.5, I want to see a 0. And at 42.5, I want to see a 0. So this is where your marks will come from. I assume that they would have given your headings and your labels for your X and your Y axis. If they didn't, you need to remember to label that. They usually award marks for it if they didn't provide it to you. Okay, so we talked about an ogive, and what does it mean? Remember, it's frequency plus frequency plus frequency. We talked about a frequency polygon, where you will not work with cumulative frequency. You will work with your normal frequency. And with a frequency polygon, you need to work with the midpoint of your class intervals. Okay, we talked about averages. We talked about standard deviation. So the things that we didn't touch on with these two questions are your quartiles, your 5-point summary, which includes minimum, maximum, Q1, Q2, and Q3. And that is about that, your median, which is included with a 5-point frequency. Okay, so make sure that you catch up on those. As I said, in our next webinar, we will be looking at the new statistics for grade 12 and then also doing some examination questions. Okay. So 2.2, I just want to look at, so it's a continuation. If you go back to this question, you will see it had a 2.2 as well. But it has something else that we need to talk about. So 2 grade 11 mathematics classes have the same number of learners. The 5 number summaries of the marks obtained by these classes are a test are shown that are shown below. Okay. So now they talk about the 5 number summaries, which has a minimum value and a maximum value. A lower quartile, your median, and your upper quartile. So this is for both sets. So class A, these are their results, and class B, these are their results. So the parents of the learners in class A and class B observe that both classes have the same median. So your Q2 are the same and the same maximum mark, and therefore claim that there is no difference in the performance between these classes. Do you agree with this claim? Use at least 2 different arguments to justify your answer. So they've only given us this value, so we need to talk about these values. So the arguments will be based on what they've given us over here. Okay. So firstly, this claim is not valid. So to just look at my median and to my maximum value and say that they are the same is not valid. We need to look at the other values as well, like I said. So let's talk about the range. The range is the maximum minus my minimum value, correct? So the range for class A is 60, where the range of class B is 40. It means that there was a bigger difference between marks obtained in class A than that of class B. Class B are closer to the 90 percentage, where class A actually have people that is more farther removed from your maximum, which is by that 90 degrees that they 90% that they talk about over there. So the range of class A is bigger than the range of class B. Therefore, the marks of class A are more spread out than that of class B. Okay, we've talked about it and we understand that there were actually learners that was further away from the 90 degree class A than there was in class B. If I look at the data also given to me, my lower quartile, which is 48 in class A, is less than my minimum value of class B. It means that 25%, so a quarter of the class in class A, performed weaker than the lowest mark in class B. So there were actually a quarter of the students that got less than the child that got less in the least in class B. Okay, so already it tells me, listen, but class A was farther removed from my maximum, and a quarter of that class actually did worse than the lowest mark in class B. So in the lower quartile, class A performed the worst. It means that class A overall performed worse than the children of class B. Okay, so I am now going to take down all the hands and I'm going to allow you to ask your question. So if you have a question, please put up your hand so that I can give you the opportunity to ask your question. Hands going up, so I'm just going to scroll down. Alejandra. You are there.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. I want to know, when are we doing the sampling and stuff like that for the, or is that even part of term two's work
No.
in
So
statistics?
no, term 2 is only revision of grade 11 work. So like I said, this is why I only looked at question papers regarding grade 11 work. In our next webinar, I'll add the grade 12 work with that.
Okay, so but when I checked the when I went through the year plan, it showed that that term two stuff had statistics in it. So am I not supposed to do the statistics this term?
Yes, so you will see that it is only the revision part that is part of this term statistics. So you can just start off by doing the revision, which is also included in your textbook, in your grade 12 textbook, and then we will carry on to the regression lines and sampling in our next webinar, which is actually part of term 3 work.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure. Right, let's go down the list. I don't see any hands that is up at the moment. I'm quickly going to move to our question box and see what questions is asked over there. Okay, so Janice asked about if I do have any news about the June examination. I think I answered that already, that the grade 12s will not be writing June examination as you know it in this time. I'm not sure if it will fall away completely and that you will only write prelims and finals. I assume that is what's going to happen. But as soon as we get more information, we will let you know. I think after Thursday, I saw that Miss Angie Matsehe actually has a message for us regarding the education with the final dates of opening, and then we will have more answers about the June examination. But the June, as you know it, will not be written for grade 12s this year. Okay. Leandra just asked about the sampling again and what is part of this term. So we've answered all of that questions. So there's no questions in the question box. Okay, Marianne asked, will term 2's work be present in other exams down the line? Absolutely, yes. So in your FET phase, there's no difference between your June and your November examinations or your prelims. All of the work that you have done up to that stage of an examination will be examined. So definitely, terms 2 work will also be examined in the prelims as well as in the final examination. Is there any way that students could contact each other so we can help each other out sometimes if we come across problems, like how classmates help each other? I don't have a problem with that. I'm not sure how we will share that information, as we are not allowed to share any privileged information with our clients. I'm sure that if you post that on Impact's Facebook page, that you would like to make some contact with other grade 12 learners, and then you can set up a group and help each other. I think that's an excellent idea. Okay, Llewellyn asked, does this mean that we'll be writing twice the amount of exams in future? No. As far as I know and how I understand it, we just need some confirmation, is that the June examination will fall away completely for this year. Then in any case, you would have had your prelim examinations and your final examinations that still needs to be written, which will carry on as planned. It's a pleasure, Janice, just say thank you. And then if we have the opportunity, can we push ahead and do terms 3 max? Yes, you are more than welcome. And I actually recommend that you carry on with terms 3 work. We don't know what's going to happen in future if you need to press in a lot of work in a shorter amount of time. So please, when you do have the time, please carry on with term 3 work. I am also going to carry on in the webinars with term 3 work when we finish off. So today we are finished with terms 2 work. I am going to carry on in our next webinar, as I mentioned, with term 3 and so on. So we will definitely move on. If you have the opportunity at home, please do that as well. As you know, you are homeschoolers, so you need to work on your own. You can't depend only on the webinars. So please carry on, work through your work, make sure that you get everything done. I just quickly want to see if there is any hands up at this stage. Leandra did ask her question. Okay. It seems that everyone is happy at this stage. So we are done for today. So I've given some extra work. As you know, I always give you some extra resources that you can go and have a look at. So I've added there an online resource for you. It's actually videos of people also explaining the work. There I've added grade 11 statistics and grade 12 statistics. So you can go have a look at both of them for your preparation for our next webinar. At the bottom, you will see that there's the link to our YouTube channel. So all the recorded webinars up to this stage, and this one will also be made available to you later in the week, can be seen and found on that YouTube channel over there. If you are not registered with Impact and you would like to find out more, you're welcome to send an email to info@impact.co.za. I will be able to answer your questions. Grade 12s, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I hope that you've learned a lot and that you could have, that I've sparked all the knowledge that you've learned in grade 11 statistics. Enjoy the time that you have with your families and stay healthy. I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Have a nice day. Bye.